Black boy asked the billionaire for food. What happened to his son the next day shocked him. The glass towers of Manhattan gleam like knives against the winter sky as billionaire Harrison Stone signs another deal that will make him richer while making others poorer. 60 floors below, 10-year-old Malik huddles against the building's marble facade, his thin jacket no match for February's bite. The contrast burns like ice, leather boardrooms above, freezing concrete below. Malik's empty stomach twists as he watches Harrison through floor-to-ceiling windows, cutting into a meal that costs more than his family has seen in months. Tonight, desperation will drive a child to approach the untouchable, to ask the impossible from a man who has forgotten that hunger exists. But Harrison's own son waits at home, trapped in struggles that money cannot cure, carrying wounds that wealth cannot heal. What happens when these two worlds collide will shatter everything both fathers believe about strength, survival, and the true meaning of privilege. Malik's sneakers squelch against slush as he approaches the revolving doors of Stone Financial Tower, each step carrying the weight of 3 days without real food. The security guard's hand moves instinctively to his radio, his trained eyes cataloging torn jeans, duct-taped shoes, and the kind of desperate hunger that makes children brave enough to enter places designed to keep them out. Behind bulletproof glass, Harrison Stone's empire thrives on calculating human need into profit margins, transforming desperation into dividends for shareholders who never see the faces behind their returns. The lobby's marble floors reflect Malik's small figure like a dark stain on pristine perfection, his presence disrupting the carefully choreographed ballet of wealth and power. The elevator ride to the 60th floor feels like ascending through layers of heaven, each ding marking another altitude where ordinary people aren't meant to breathe. Malik's reflection multiplies in polished brass, showing him a boy who looks smaller with each passing floor, his confidence shrinking as the numbers climb higher. But hunger is a powerful motivator, and the memory of his little sister crying herself to sleep last night fuels his determination to reach the man whose decisions affect thousands of lives he's never bothered to consider. The elevator doors open onto a reception area that costs more than most people's homes, where crystal chandeliers cast rainbows that feel like mockery to someone who knows what real darkness looks like. Harrison's assistant, a woman whose jewelry could feed a family for years, looks up from her computer with the kind of practiced disdain reserved for people who clearly don't belong in spaces this expensive. "Excuse me, young man, but this is a private floor. You can't just—" Malik interrupts with the directness that poverty teaches, his voice carrying dignity that no amount of wealth can buy or destroy. "Please, ma'am, I just need 2 minutes with Mr. Stone. My family hasn't eaten in 3 days, and I heard he was a good man who helps people." The words hang in the air like an accusation against everything this building represents, challenging the mythology of trickle-down economics with the reality of empty stomachs. Through glass walls, Harrison notices the commotion in his outer office, his attention drawn from merger documents to the small figure standing defiantly in his corporate sanctuary. For a moment, he sees something that pierces through his carefully constructed armor of indifference. A child who reminds him painfully of his own son, Lucas, trapped at home in a wheelchair, fighting battles that make hunger seem simple by comparison. Malik's courage in coming here mirrors Lucas's daily struggle to navigate a world designed for bodies that work differently. Both boys learning to ask for help in systems that punish vulnerability while rewarding those who never need to beg for anything. The security team arrives with military precision, their hands reaching for Malik with the casual efficiency of people accustomed to removing problems before they become scandals. But Harrison raises his hand, stopping them mid-reach, something in the boy's stance triggering memories of his own son's quiet desperation. "Let him speak," Harrison says, his voice carrying authority that makes grown men pause. Malik steps forward, his small frame straightening with dignity that comes from learning survival in circumstances where weakness means starvation. "Mr. Stone, sir, I know you don't know me, but I heard you have a son too. I'm not asking for charity. I'm asking for a chance to work, to earn food for my family. I'll do anything, clean, carry papers, sweep floors. I just need someone to see that we're worth saving." Harrison's penthouse office overlooks a city where his decisions ripple through millions of lives like stones dropped in still water. Each corporate strategy creating waves of consequence he's trained himself not to see. The boy standing before his desk represents everything his business model depends on. Desperate people willing to work for less, communities weakened by systematic divestment, families broken by economic policies that concentrate wealth at the top while bleeding resources from the bottom. But Malik's direct gaze cuts through Harrison's comfortable distance, forcing him to confront the human cost of his success in a way that quarterly reports and profit margins never could reveal. "What's your name, son?" Harrison asks, his voice softer than it's been in years of boardroom negotiations and hostile takeovers. "Malik, sir. Malik Johnson. I live about 6 miles from here with my mama and little sister Zara. Mama works 3 jobs, but it's still not enough, especially since they cut hours at the diner where she works nights." Each detail of Malik's life lands like a physical blow against Harrison's understanding of how the economy works for people without inherited advantages or accumulated capital. The boy's matter-of-fact recitation of hardship reveals systems Harrison helped create through legislative lobbying and strategic political donations. His wealth built on structures that keep others locked out of opportunity. Harrison thinks of his own son, Lucas, waiting at home in their mansion's specially modified rooms, surrounded by every medical innovation money can buy, but unable to escape the depression that has settled over him like fog since the accident. Lucas has everything material wealth can provide: adaptive technology, private tutors, experimental treatments. But he's lost something that no amount of money can restore: the belief that his life has purpose beyond being a tragedy for others to pity. The parallel cuts deep. Here stands a boy who is nothing but maintains hope, while at home sits a boy who is everything but has lost the will to fight. The contrast reveals truths about resilience that Harrison's business education never covered. "My son is about your age," Harrison says, surprising himself with the admission. "He's been having a hard time lately. Different kinds of problems than yours, but..." The sentence trails off as Harrison realizes he's never compared Lucas's struggles to anyone else's, never considered that hardship comes in forms that money both can and cannot address. Malik nods with understanding that seems impossible for someone his age, his eyes showing wisdom earned through survival rather than inherited through privilege. "Being young is hard no matter what, I guess. But at least your son knows you love him enough to give him everything. My mama loves us too, but love don't fill empty stomachs or pay rent. Maybe that's why God made some people rich, so they could help people like us when love ain't enough." The insight hits Harrison like lightning, revealing the moral framework he's abandoned in pursuit of accumulating wealth that already exceeds what his family could spend in lifetimes. Malik's simple theology challenges everything Harrison tells himself about deserving his success, about earning his position through merit rather than circumstance. The boy's presence in this office represents a test Harrison didn't know he was taking, a moment where his response will define not just Malik's immediate future, but his own moral legacy. Through the windows, the city spreads out like a game board where Harrison moves pieces worth billions while children like Malik struggle for survival on streets he's never walked, in neighborhoods his policies have systematically neglected. "What would you do if I gave you money right now?" Harrison asks, testing whether Malik's story is performance or genuine need. The boy's response reveals character that Harrison's own privileged upbringing never demanded him to develop. "I buy groceries for this week and pay the electric bill so it don't get shut off again. Then I'd save the rest for next month's rent." I wouldn't buy toys or games or nothing like that. We can't afford to waste anything on wants when we got so many needs. The practical wisdom in Malik's answer shames Harrison, who spends more on wine in a single evening than this family sees in months, whose son has rooms full of untouched expensive gifts while this boy calculates survival in terms of electricity and basic nutrition. Harrison's phone buzzes with urgent messages from his son's therapist, Dr. Sarah Chun, requesting an emergency consultation about Lucas's declining mental health. The timing feels cosmic. While Malik stands in his office radiating resilience despite systematic disadvantage, his own son lies at home, consumed by depression that millions in medical care can't seem to touch. Harrison steps aside to take the call, listening as Dr. Chun describes Lucas's latest episode with clinical precision that fails to capture the devastating reality of watching your child disappear into darkness. He's expressing feelings of worthlessness, questioning why he survived the accident when he can't contribute to society. He needs connection with peers who understand struggle, purpose that makes him feel valuable despite his physical limitations. The conversation with Dr. Chun creates uncomfortable parallels between the two boys, one fighting external circumstances with internal strength, the other battling internal demons despite external advantages. Lucas's accident 2 years ago left him paralyzed from the waist down, but the physical trauma was nothing compared to the psychological devastation of losing his identity as an athlete, his dreams of following his father's path to success. Harrison has thrown money at the problem: experimental treatments, cutting-edge therapy, adaptive sports programs, but nothing has restored the spark that made Lucas himself. Dr. Chin's words echo in Harrison's mind. Sometimes healing requires connection with people who understand what it means to fight just to survive. Lucas needs to feel useful, needed, part of something bigger than his limitations. Malik waits patiently while Harrison takes his call, his small hands folded politely in his lap, his eyes studying the office with wonder rather than resentment. When Harrison returns, the boy asks with genuine curiosity, "Is your son okay, sir? You look worried about him." The question catches Harrison off guard. This child, facing his own family's crisis, still has emotional bandwidth to recognize someone else's pain. He's been struggling since an accident left him in a wheelchair. He feels like his life doesn't matter anymore, like he can't contribute anything meaningful to the world. Harrison surprises himself by sharing such personal information, but something about Malik's presence creates safety for vulnerability he rarely allows himself to feel. "That's sad," Malik says, his young face serious with consideration. "But being in a wheelchair don't mean you can't help people. My neighbor Mr. Rodriguez is in a wheelchair, and he helps all the kids in our building with homework. He knows stuff about math and science that none of us learned in school. Maybe your son just needs to find out what he's good at besides walking." The simple wisdom in Malik's words cuts through months of expensive therapy and medical consultations, offering perspective that money can't buy. Harrison realizes that Lucas has been surrounded by people paid to help him, but never by peers who might naturally see past his disability to his potential for contribution. The contrast becomes stark. Malik faces external obstacles but maintains internal hope, while Lucas has every external advantage but has lost internal purpose. Harrison begins to understand that his son's healing might require exposure to the kind of struggle that builds character, connection with people who fight daily battles without giving up. "Malik," Harrison says slowly, "what if I told you I could help your family with food and bills, but I needed something from you in return?" The boy's eyes brighten with hope tempered by caution. "What kind of something, sir?" Harrison takes a breath, realizing he's about to propose something that could transform both boys' lives. "I want you to meet my son. I think you two might be able to help each other in ways that have nothing to do with money." The request hangs between them like a bridge waiting to be crossed, connecting two worlds that exist in the same city but rarely intersect. Malik considers the proposal with seriousness beyond his years, understanding intuitively that this moment represents more than a transaction. It's an opportunity to prove that value doesn't come from bank accounts or physical ability, but from the courage to keep fighting and the willingness to lift others up. "Yes, sir," he says finally. "I'd like to meet your son. Maybe we can be friends. I don't have many friends who understand what it's like when things get really hard." Harrison nods, realizing that in trying to help Malik, he may have found the key to saving Lucas, and perhaps himself, from the isolation that wealth and privilege create when they become walls instead of bridges. Harrison's mansion feels like a museum as he leads Malik through hallways lined with priceless art and family portraits spanning generations of accumulated wealth. Each room they pass could house Malik's entire family, the casual excess becoming obscene when seen through the eyes of someone who understands scarcity. But Malik doesn't gawk or touch. Instead, he moves with careful respect, his natural dignity intact despite the overwhelming disparity between their worlds. The elevator to Lucas's floor is larger than most people's bedrooms, its brass fixtures polished to perfection by staff, whose names Harrison realizes he's never bothered to learn. Another reminder of how disconnected wealth has made him from the people who maintain his comfortable existence. Lucas's room occupies an entire wing of the mansion, specially designed with ramps, adaptive technology, and medical equipment that represents more money than most families will ever see. But despite the luxury, the space feels hollow, sterile, lacking the warmth that makes a room feel lived in rather than endured. Lucas sits by his window in his custom wheelchair, staring out at gardens he no longer visits, his 17-year-old frame thin from depression and lack of appetite. The contrast with Malik's alertness and energy is immediate. One boy carrying hope despite having nothing, the other losing hope despite having everything. Harrison's chest tightens as he realizes how completely he's failed to understand what his son actually needs versus what money can provide. "Lucas, I'd like you to meet someone," Harrison says gently, his voice carrying uncertainty about how this unprecedented meeting will unfold. Lucas turns slowly, his eyes immediately noting the obvious differences between himself and his visitor. Age, race, economic status, but also recognizing something familiar in Malik's direct gaze. "This is Malik. He came to my office today asking for help with his family, and I thought you two might have some things in common." The introduction feels clumsy, inadequate for the weight of the moment, but Malik steps forward with natural ease, extending his hand toward Lucas with the same respect he showed in the corporate office, treating the wheelchair as unremarkable as any other piece of furniture. "Hi, Lucas," Malik says, his voice carrying warmth that cuts through the room's emotional chill. "Your dad says you've been having a hard time lately. I'm sorry about that. Hard times are really hard, especially when you're young and people expect you to just deal with it." The words are simple but profound, acknowledging Lucas's struggle without pity or awkward attempts to minimize his experience. Lucas blinks in surprise. Most people either ignore his condition entirely or oversympathize in ways that make him feel more isolated. Malik's matter-of-fact acceptance creates space for authentic connection that months of professional therapy haven't achieved. "Yeah," Lucas responds quietly. "It's been pretty rough." "How old are you?" 10, Malik answers. "But I've been dealing with hard stuff my whole life, so I'm kind of older in some ways, you know?" The conversation that follows reveals unexpected parallels between their experiences. Lucas talks about feeling useless, unable to contribute to his family or society in ways that matter. Malik shares his daily responsibilities, caring for his sister, helping his mother manage bills, making decisions that most 10-year-olds never face. "You think you can't contribute anything," Malik observes, "but look at all this stuff you have access to. You could probably help lots of people if you wanted to. I bet you're really smart. You look smart." Lucas laughs for the first time in months, genuine amusement breaking through his depression like sunlight through clouds. "What makes someone look smart?" he asks. I don't know, Malik grins, but you got that look like you understand things. Plus, your dad's really successful, so you probably learned stuff about business and money that could help people like my mama figure out how to make things better. As the afternoon progresses, something magical happens. Lucas begins to see himself through Malik's eyes, not as a broken person defined by disability, but as someone with knowledge, resources, and potential that could make real differences in other people's lives. Malik describes the challenges his family faces with the analytical precision that Lucas recognizes from his own academic training, turning problems into puzzles that beg for solutions. What if, Lucas says slowly, I could help you figure out ways to make your mom's money stretch further. I've been studying economics and business theory since I was little. Maybe I could teach you stuff that would help your whole family. For the first time since his accident, Lucas feels the stirring of purpose, the possibility that his mind might be more valuable than his legs ever were. 3 months later, Harrison's mansion has been transformed from a sterile monument to wealth into something resembling an actual home. Lucas's room buzzes with activity as he and Malik work together on what they've dubbed Project Uplift, a comprehensive plan to help low-income families develop financial literacy and economic stability. The walls are covered with charts, graphs, and photographs of families they've started helping, each success story representing lives changed through the combination of Lucas's analytical skills and Malik's street-smart understanding of survival. The depression that once consumed Lucas has been replaced by focused energy, his brilliant mind finally engaged with problems that matter beyond quarterly profit reports and stock portfolios. Malik arrives every day after school, taking the bus across town to reach the mansion that has become his second home. The journey itself represents the bridge they've built between their worlds. Malik navigating public transportation to reach private privilege, Lucas using his resources to fund practical solutions for systemic problems. Together, they've created financial workshops for families in Malik's neighborhood, taught by Lucas via video conference and translated into actionable advice by Malik's lived experience. The program has helped 17 families avoid eviction, established community gardens that reduce food costs, and created micro-lending circles that provide alternatives to predatory payday loans that trap people in cycles of debt. The partnership has revealed strengths neither boy knew he possessed. Lucas discovers that his privilege becomes powerful when combined with purpose, that his education gains meaning when applied to real-world problems that affect real people. His analytical mind, trained on abstract theories, comes alive when focused on concrete challenges like helping Malik's mother negotiate better work schedules or teaching neighborhood kids about compound interest and saving strategies. Meanwhile, Malik develops confidence and leadership skills as he translates Lucas's academic knowledge into practical wisdom that resonates with families facing similar struggles to his own. Their friendship becomes a bridge between theory and practice, wealth and need, isolation and community. Harrison watches this transformation with wonder and growing shame about his own disconnection from meaningful work. His son, trapped in a wheelchair, has accomplished more social good in 3 months than Harrison's corporations have achieved in decades of existence. The boy's partnership challenges everything he believed about success, showing him that impact can't be measured only in dollars accumulated, but must include lives improved and community strengthened. Lucas's joy in their work creates stark contrast with Harrison's own empty pursuit of wealth for its own sake, forcing him to confront the possibility that his business model represents systematic failure rather than entrepreneurial success. The ripple effects extend beyond the boy's immediate project. Other wealthy families in Harrison's circle begin asking questions about their own children's purpose and engagement, wondering why their kids seem directionless despite every advantage money can provide. Malik's presence in Lucas's life becomes a catalyst for broader conversations about privilege, responsibility, and the hollowness of success that doesn't serve anyone beyond the successful. Harrison finds himself invited to speak at conferences about corporate social responsibility, but for the first time, he feels qualified to address the topic because he's finally seeing business through the lens of human impact rather than shareholder value. Dr. Chun marvels at Lucas's psychological transformation, noting that his depression has lifted not through medication or traditional therapy, but through the discovery of purpose that makes his limitations irrelevant. When people find meaning that's bigger than their personal circumstances, she explains to Harrison, healing happens naturally. Lucas doesn't think about what he can't do anymore. He's focused on what he can accomplish with Malik's partnership. That's the most powerful medicine I've ever seen. Harrison realizes that his son's healing required something money couldn't buy. Authentic connection with someone who needed his unique gifts. Partnership with someone who saw his value rather than his limitations. Purpose that made his daily existence feel necessary rather than optional. 2 years after Malik first appeared in Harrison's office, they stand together on the stage of the United Nations Youth Summit, representing a model for cross-cultural, cross-economic collaboration that has inspired similar partnerships around the world. Lucas speaks from his wheelchair with confidence that radiates throughout the assembly hall, his words carrying the authority of someone who has discovered that limitation can become strength when channeled towards service. Malik, now 12 and poised beyond his years, translates complex economic theory into stories that make policymakers weep and inspire standing ovations. Together, they represent proof that society's most intractable problems can be solved when privilege partners with purpose, when wealth serves wisdom, when those who have everything learn from those who have nothing but hope. Their organization, Bridges Not Walls, has expanded beyond their initial neighborhood to operate in 43 cities, pairing privileged young people with peers from struggling communities to create solutions that neither group could develop alone. The model works because it recognizes that both poverty and wealth create blind spots. Those without resources can't see possibilities, while those with resources can't see realities. The partnerships bridge these gaps, creating hybrid perspectives that generate innovations no amount of money or good intentions could produce independently. Harrison's business empire has been restructured to support these initiatives, his wealth finally aligned with his son's values rather than fighting against them. Malik's family has moved into a beautiful home in a neighborhood where opportunity exists, but they haven't forgotten where they came from or the people still struggling in places they left behind. His mother now runs the adult education component of their program, her lived experience with poverty informing curriculum that actually works for people juggling multiple jobs and family responsibilities. Zara, Malik's sister, shows exceptional academic talent that would have been lost if Harrison hadn't invested in educational opportunities for Malik's entire family. The investment represents more than charity. It's recognition that talent exists everywhere, but opportunity doesn't, and that society loses when systemic barriers prevent brilliant minds from reaching their potential. Lucas has found his calling in policy research, using his analytical skills to design economic systems that create opportunities rather than obstacles for families like Malik's. His disability has become irrelevant to his identity, simply one physical characteristic among many rather than the defining limitation it once seemed. He speaks at business schools about stakeholder capitalism and medical conferences about finding purpose through service and at disability rights gatherings about the difference between accommodation and inclusion. His transformation from depressed teenager to confident advocate proves that healing happens when people discover they're needed, when their unique combination of experiences becomes valuable to others facing different but related challenges. Harrison's own transformation has been equally dramatic. He's divested from industries that profit from human suffering, redirected his political contributions toward candidates who support economic justice, and restructured his companies to prioritize worker welfare alongside shareholder returns. The changes have actually increased long-term profitability, proving that ethical business practices and financial success aren't mutually exclusive when properly aligned. He speaks regularly about the false choice between compassion and capitalism, using his platform to challenge other wealthy individuals to measure success by impact rather than accumulation. His legacy has shifted from building wealth to building bridges, from concentrating power to distributing opportunity. The boys' friendship has deepened in a brotherhood that transcends their different backgrounds and circumstances. They've learned from each other in ways that formal education never could have provided. Malik developing confidence and analytical skills, Lucas developing empathy and practical wisdom. Their partnership proves that privilege becomes powerful when it serves purpose, that struggle builds strength that everyone needs, that the best solutions emerge when different perspectives combine rather than compete. They represent hope for a future where economic inequality doesn't determine social isolation, where wealth creates opportunity rather than building walls, where young people inherit systems designed for justice rather than systems designed to perpetuate advantage. As they conclude their UN presentation, Lucas and Malik stand together, one in a wheelchair, one standing, but both equally powerful, both equally necessary, both proving that society's greatest challenges require collaboration rather than charity, partnership rather than pity, bridges rather than walls. Their story has become legend, not because it's unique, but because it's replicable, a model that any community can adapt when people choose connection over separation, when privilege chooses service over selfishness, when hope chooses action over despair. They've shown the world that transformation is possible when we stop seeing differences as divisions and start seeing them as opportunities for strength that neither person could develop alone. If this story moved you, maybe it's time to ask who in your community might benefit from your unique gifts, who might have gifts you need to discover. If it is, build bridges.